Good evening. I welcome you all for today's session. Welcome Clive, welcome Akash. And
Thank
today we
you.
are going to talk about overview and importance of ISO certification for AEC industry. Welcome Clive, welcome Akash once again. Let's begin.
All right. So we've all been really enthusiastic about ISO 19650 and what it can give us as an industry. But today we're going to talk about specifically how do you prove to people that you are following the workflow, and by doing so, getting certified, and then showing that to a lot of teams that might be employing you, giving you more work because of it, having better collaboration with your partners because of it. So today we're going to talk about preparation for certification. We're going to talk about how we've got templates to help you to do that, and we've also got a great 60-day program that will enable your teams to get trained individually, get certified individually, and also get certified as a company. So a lot to cover, but where do we start? I suppose let's start with the preparation. Um, Akash, let me put you on the spot. What do you think would be a good way for a company that is already using BIM and implementing it in their workflows to get started and start thinking about the steps to certification, to show that they're actually following the ISO 19650 workflow?
Awesome, great question. Thanks for putting me on the spot. I have a couple of ideas on my mind. So when it comes to really practical steps, we've been covering a lot of things already on planner.com. So lots of resources that you can find there. Short video tutorials. We understand that we have to keep it simple as much as possible. So short video tutorials, and also the steps actually to be certified. You probably want to know that there are lots of certification bodies, so you can choose your preference, who you want to go to make an audit. But that's a little bit later down the road. So maybe one thing to do, I mean, yeah, just kind of warm up, watch some of these tutorials and videos, but after that, get a little bit deeper and read the standard, actually, understand the standard yourself as well. That will make you creating some of the documents and resources that the standards talk about, and kind of an in-house preparation you can get to a certain point. Which takes you to a next step where you really want to understand how far you are from an audit. But I don't want to go or jump right into the middle of it. But that would be a next step, a gap analysis to really understand where you are. But actually, there are lots of resources and help along the way that can take you there.
So you mentioned to read the standard. Yeah, that might be a good starting place. Yeah. Where can people maybe just to take a look at that, when you say read the standard, is that everybody within an organization should be reading the standard cover to cover? Who should be reading the standard? Who should be the one sort of responsible for understanding exactly what's in that standard?
Well, there will be information managers on projects and in organizations, but in the end, the organization is going to be certified. So the key resources would have to understand their roles and responsibilities. I wouldn't say that everyone has to read the standard, but again, the templates that you have to show in a certification process, and then the projects that have been using those standards. So all those resources, all those employees would have to understand the content of these resources and documents.
Yeah, and so what we've spent a lot of time doing as a team at Plannerly is simplifying the implementation for a lot of companies, and that has started by understanding cover to cover every single thing that any team would need to know, and then boiling it down into a simplified workflow. And we've shared that before, but you can get it if you just search for ISO 19650 PDF workflow or Plannerly ISO 19650 workflow. You'll see a diagram that really simplifies things into much more achievable and digestible steps. And that's really where I would suggest taking, once you've read the standard cover to cover, if you're the person implementing and you're the one responsible for implementing at your company, take that, use it as a backdrop to the conversations that you're having, and then combined with the templates that we provide, that workflow becomes a lot more accessible to everyone. And one of the things that I would recommend, maybe I could share my screen in this part, is when you go to the library of, let me share my screen quickly. Go to the library of all of the resources inside of Plannerly. One of the things that's important is understanding things like, here we're saying appoint information manager. And if I add this to our project, you can see that appointing the information manager comes along with a bunch of information about it, what it is, and also some checklists. And that set of information then becomes a way that you can start using Plannerly, not just to implement the method, the process for the project, but also how to start checking off what you're doing, whether you're implementing the right step to verify that the CD is in place at the right time, and to make sure that you are going through every single one of the clauses. If I go to, let me step to one part that's kind of the most interesting part inside of part 2. You have all of the clauses that go through this information delivery phase. And if I look at this, and we see clauses which are starting at 5, and 5.1.1 is appoint individuals to undertake the information management function. Well, that just so happens to be a checklist inside of Plannerly. So knowing that you've got to do it, having it in a checklist form, and being able to go through that in the same workflow that you're implementing on the project, we've seen be incredibly important. So my recommendation there, as you prepare, have one person read cover to cover, and probably read it more than once, as we find. I think that when I started reading ISO 19650, I think I started reading and then I read it maybe 4 times in the end, each part, and recapping and scribbling notes over it, trying to digest it, having conversations with other experts on our team, and really boiling it down to something that would be then practical to implement, and taking that understanding along with that simplified process map, along with that template with the checklists, and then starting to implement with your teams. So it's really not scaring people with a whole bunch of paper and clauses, which are maybe sometimes difficult to interpret for the rest of the team that's not neck deep in ISO 19650. But really trying to simplify it in a way that teams can then understand and implement inside of the tools that they're using today. So hopefully that's Plannerly, but you could do the same thing using a set of Excel templates, a set of Word templates, and managing that process a little more with the connected steps in between. Shivang, what do you think? If you're starting with...
Is there any easy way that somebody can read this ISO 19650 page to page for me, and that person can be my consultant and, do hand holding and implement Plannerly for me?
Well, there you go. That's one of the steps when you appoint that information management function. That doesn't have to be somebody inside of your team. That could actually be a consultant. That could be supporting other members, other companies, other workflows, other projects. So we see that happen all of the time, where consultants like yourselves that are implementing for other companies to make sure that they're dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and making sure that the implementation is going smoothly and following the standards, and therefore they can use those projects to get certified as well. Absolutely. Yep.
Because this is a realistic question from the market. I had a meeting today and there was this question. So I was meeting an organization who is pretty much number 1 in India for almost all the businesses they are into, and they are looking at implementing Plannerly across their real estate and construction segment. And this was the particular question, that can we have somebody do hand holding for our entire team for one project, so that we just have to focus on doing that project, and one project is done with this implementation specialist or consultant's help, end to end, everything inside Plannerly, all the documentation, scope, verify everything.
Yep.
So this was their actual question.
Yeah, we get that a lot on almost a daily basis. We're putting together our teams of experts around the world. There's about 400 partners that we work with directly, and we are referencing them into customers, and customers are asking us, can we have somebody that already knows how to do this, not just knows Plannerly, but also knows the workflow and the standards and how to implement it? Because moving on to the certification process, it's a two-step certification process to show that the company is able to implement. The first step is about showing your templates and your workflows, your processes that your company has. And the second one is, as you said there, showing proof that you're using it on a project. And so that combination is your certification process for ISO 19650. And what will happen in that certification process is the auditor will go through the clauses that are relevant for your company and what you're actually looking to get certified on. So you could be certified as an appointing party, you could be certified as a lead appointed party or an appointed party, and it's different sets of that workflow, different parts of that workflow. And in the process map that we've shared, it really breaks it down and shows you the parts that are relevant to your organization. So if I'm at the point where I'm trying to get appointed by the lead appointed party, then I've got a workflow for me, and that workflow includes understanding how to create the task information delivery plan that will be used in the lead appointed party's master information delivery plan, and what the steps are for me to get contracted into that workflow. And so that's really important to understand how each of those three core swim lanes in the process, how you are getting affected by this and how you're incorporating it in your workflow, and then how does that interface with the other teams. So if you're a lead appointed party, you have to interface with the client, the owner, the appointing party, and also the appointed parties as well. If you're the client, and everyone should be understanding what their organization is and how they are impacted by and can benefit from implementing better information management workflows inside of their organization, and then how it interfaces with others. And that's what those clauses, that's what the clauses are all about, helps you to get there. And one thing that we can do to share more, maybe I could dig into that if to move us on to what the practical side of it is. We actually have a 60-day program that helps you to identify what the gaps are and to how to really understand what to do to get to the quickest way possible all of your individuals in your team certified and your company then certified for implementing ISO 19650 processes. Lots to talk about. So if you were helping a customer of yours, Shivang, in implementing ISO 19650, and you were able to take that simplified process map and also some of the templates directly out of Plannerly, how do you think that helps not only yourselves, maybe the company that you're implementing with, but also our industry in understanding and to implement a common workflow? How do you think those steps could help you and our industry?
So I'll tell you the problem statement that one of these clients had. Their biggest issue is, they said that usually we create contracts and information requirements using a spreadsheet or a Word document, and we feel that we all the stakeholders and all the parties have agreed to it, but there is no agreement kind of a thing, because somebody creates it, they circulate it, when they have time they read it, if they don't have time they don't read it, it goes under the carpet, and nobody can come back and pinpoint that this is agreeable, this is not agreeable.
Yeah.
So why this process helps them if they are on Plannerly is they can do the assignment of the task properly, assignment of information requirements properly, and assignments of scope properly. So this all is their problem statement is they want one platform where they can assign everything to the right kind of user or a consultant, and all of them are on same page.
I did not realize when we started to develop Plannerly that the biggest challenge in our industry is accountability, and also everyone does almost the same thing but in a slightly different way, and therefore it's really difficult to get accountability because everyone has their own way of doing things and they think that it's bespoke and the way they do stuff, and a certain amount of that is 100% true as far as winning work, as far as customer service and making sure that the customer gets exactly what they want. But what these standards have enabled, have really put some fuel in that, is that it standardizes the steps, it standardizes the language, it standardizes that workflow. And if you have a standardized workflow that you can incorporate into your project workflow and have the assignment with accountability so that teams, as you said, know exactly what they have to do, when they have to do it, who has to do it, how much do they have to do, all of that wrapped in a contract language and a delivery mechanism as well, so that it's not just in a set of documents, maybe sent on an email in PDF or format. It's actually in a checklist format that people can go through and say, this is a part of the workflow. Check, I've done this. It was my responsibility to do this in month one. I've now done it. It gets reviewed and verified. And that is all the way from setting up the processes and what BIM uses, for example, you're going to implement, how you're going to implement them, right the way through to, did I get the element with the right property and the right time by the right team for that Kobe deliverable at the end of the project? Absolutely. Yeah, there's lots to do.
I would say from where you started that it's about, in our industry, it is about accountability. I would also say it is about agreement. So accountability is one thing, agreement is another thing. So both should go hand in hand. Many a time it happens that, okay, there is an accountability, but there was no common agreement, there was no common set of that, okay, we all agree to this, or we all agree to this assignment, we all agree to this matrix, we all agree to this information delivery. That is usually missing, and that is one of the major takeaway from Plannerly, according to my experience, that you can set accountability, yes, but you can also have a common agreement, like agreement, an agreement which is from pre-bidding to post-construction. If we see all the stages, or rather I would say conceptualization till execution. If I talk about design and execution kind of a thing, or if I talk about design, build, and operate kind of a thing. So that agreement is more important.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I jump into this one again and sort of just to highlight that if you had, so I just brought in this whole folder with some project setup tasks in here. If you have to define the common data environment, well, somebody has to do these things. And it's not just a case of saying that there is accountability, the buck stops with the team, but there's a responsibility by a team member as well. And so therefore that not just being assigned, but also tracked to say that this was a task assigned to Clive at this point in time. I know exactly there's definition of what I'm doing. There's a point in time that it has to be done, a reason, a purpose. There's potentially even a date that it needs to be done by, not just at the end of the milestone. And there are specific things. Did I define this? Have I selected this? Have I configured this? Have I checked this? Have I trained these people? All of these things being inside of the same workflow as your project management tasks. So your setup and your project management and your delivery, all in that same workflow, and the true accountability, not just here, but also in the document side of things as well. So I know if I'm responsible for completing the information related to this project document section, I then have that true responsibility to be able to fill that and to do that. And I think
this is assigned to you. This is assigned to you, and if you don't agree, you can comment on that. So you should show that also in the screen, that you can comment on this, that okay, I don't agree to this, or I have a different view on this. So that communication and assignment Communication and agreement is what is important.
100%, absolutely. So you can say, this is what's shared and it's for my review. I can then go through, comment on this. I can change things in here. I can track all of the versions and everything that's changing. Everything is tracked, so we know and we can get to that agreement. That's definitely if I'm sent a Word document with lots of content in, and I don't really know what part is mine, there's no real accountability. There's no opportunity for discussion in a structured way on a specific piece. You can make comments all the way across a document and start trying to edit them, but it's not structured enough, and it's not in a way that can be accountable. And then the same side of it inside of a scope is that if I didn't agree with something, then I could also have a threaded conversation and comment on this and have activity about that. So we truly know what has been agreed to from a resource and a document and a workflow and process perspective, and also from a distinct task and assignment and a key deliverable perspective as well. Yep. And we talked about this PDF workflow, this diagram. This is where I would recommend you go to take a look at that diagram so that you can see exactly what we're talking about from the steps and the clauses. Clause 5, basically going from appointing information manager right the way through to the workflow for checking and delivering on your objectives. And I think that the big thing about combining our archaic traditional legacy workflows in our industry with a more structured approach is that it almost forces teams to need to then grow up when it comes to the technology that they're using. And instead of using 1990s technology, it's let's use databases that are dedicated for this workflow that actually help simplify the delivery for everyone. And yeah, that's something that we have been every single time I see it, and it's you highlighted it so well. It's how do you have accountability, but it's not accountability just for anything. It's accountability for an agreement that is something that you truly know that you can deliver. So that whole workflow to collaborate, get to collaborative agreement on everything, that's the best way possible. So Akash, maybe you could jump in. What do you think in implementing these things, some common challenges might be? Everyone has their own workflows. Coming in with a whole bunch of paper and saying this is now the new way to do things. What do you think some of the common pitfalls and challenges for those companies might be?
I think identifying those common challenges and pitfalls, there is a structured process for that as well. So that's what I mentioned earlier as well. Identifying the gaps in your processes, I think, is key to success as well. So that's when some services or providers would give you this gap analysis service to really understand how far you have already gone and how far you are in implementing ISO 19650. But when it comes to really going through an audit and giving you the certificate, there might be a gap that you still have to cover. And there's a structured way, a gap analysis that you can go through. That's an entry kind of service to a certification, which I can only recommend to go through and understand the necessary steps that you still have to make.
Absolutely. Yeah. So maybe if I share my screen again, this is the program that we have that allows teams to get certified, compliant, and then certified within the shortest space of time. Because a lot of companies struggle to implement. And yeah, usually it's because they don't really know how, what the steps are, where they need to do a little bit more. And thankfully, we have this great quote that it's a dream to audit a company that's adopted Planoly. But basically, if you have a workflow and you're able to show that to demonstrate that you're in compliance, it's really simple to get certified. So I say simple, but don't be daunted. Don't be scared about it. Don't be thinking that this is such a daunting process that you shouldn't go for ISO 19650 certification. You can get it done, and we have this program that you can go through. It starts with that gap analysis that Akash talked about there, so that we can identify really quickly where you need to do certain things, where you need certain resources, where things are missing. We have the training program that digs into exactly what you need to do from a personnel perspective and get everyone ready for it. And then even down to solving some of those non-conformances with you, with a local UCAS approved auditor, so that your certification process goes really, really smoothly. That's the process. We can definitely help there. But yeah, if you're implementing ISO 19650, that the first step is to understand where your gaps are, where you're not quite meeting the requirements. And the best thing is to understand your workflow. What part of it are you? Are you the appointing party, the lead appointed party, or an appointed party? And what are the clauses that you will be asked to show proof that you're following and you're implementing? And we can help with that for sure. What other questions, Shivang? What might a company that is ready to implement ISO 19650, what might be their concerns or questions as they go through that implementation process?
Another very big and important question that is usually asked by the appointing party is, I mean, I'll just talk about from their perspective, their point of view. They always ask that, why should we create BIM execution plan? We just have to appoint the consultants and they have to create their BIM execution plan. So what are your views on that? I mean, I have my views, but I will reserve my views right now. First, you both share your views and then I'll come to my views, because I just want to confirm with your knowledge that whatever I'm thinking is in line or not in the in the concept of international practices. So I will just again ask this question and then leave it to you to answer it. So the question is, if I am the appointing party, if I am the client and I am appointing each consultant, I am appointing general contractor, I am appointing everyone. What I have in-house is just the BIM manager who will take care of my, OIR only, nothing else. The BIM manager is concerned about OIR and PIR. Everything else will follow, and the consultants will have to implement BIM. So why should we make BIM execution plan is the question.
Maybe some clarifying questions there. So the core part, so to talk about this as a workflow from the owner's perspective, I have organizational requirements. I might be operating a hospital, and the whole reason why we as an organization get up in the morning is because we want to make people healthier. That's our main goal. And so if we communicate that through our project requirements and through the exchange requirements that we need, that's the most important thing. How do we get to, I would like everyone in our hospital to have a better life, everyone that has any association with. And so that's an important guiding principle. That's an important starting point, because somebody, yes, might be difficult to connect, but if somebody's digging foundations for this hospital, how do you connect their every movement to that same goal? And without defining the goal early on, it's very difficult to. I'm not saying there's a direct connection for every single task on the project, but if everyone truly understands exactly what the owner wants, then it's going to be better. That has to be communicated right the way through in exchange information requirements. So one of the things that we see our industry doing very poorly, and a lot of finger pointing, is there aren't clear enough definition. There isn't a clear enough definition of the owner's exchange information requirements, and there's a lot of copy and paste from one to another. So the biggest and most important part is connecting an organization's requirements through for the project specifically, and then exchange what the stages of exchange and what the information is that's required. So that whole thing, in order to benefit the owner, that's the first part. So an owner wouldn't be creating the BIM execution plan. They would be asking for, prior to the contract, how are you, from your capacity, your capability, how are you going to deliver on my project? They would then select and then go to a contract, go to an actual BIM execution plan with the nuts and bolts to actually say, these are the things that we're going to, these are the processes, this is how we're going to deliver for you on your project. My off the record personal opinion is that there are far too many BIM execution plans that are being copied and pasted and banded about and not actually getting to a true agreement. So I'm not sure where your question falls in there, but for me, it's about how do you use a platform to have a collaboratively created, continuously improving from day zero right the way through to the end of the project, and continually updating and a live BIM execution plan that is used by all stakeholders on the project. And that can be incredibly difficult with using traditional word processing documents and sending them around, and they're never really live, they're always out of date. So my statement would be two parts. One, the owner needs to define their exchange information requirements in a much more clear and defined way that connects to their overall operational goals. And then on the other side of it, to have a consolidated, collaborative, continually live and improving BIM execution plan that is also archived at every single new appointment and as part of their contract, and even developed and re-upped into their contract if certain things change in respect to process or something that needs to be contractually obligated. So whether I'm answering your question or not, it's define clear information requirements and then define how you're going to do it, but never say that that's final and not going to change, because teams are always improving, and a BIM execution plan should be both live and also archived for teams along the way so that it can be contractually binding.
Akash, what is your take on that?
Yeah, that was a pretty nice answer to the question. My take on that is on one hand, so appointing the information managers and handing the responsibilities to consultants. So in the end, information managers, even if it's kind of outsourced, if you want to say that, they are acting on behalf of your organization or on behalf of the appointing party, not instead of them. So responsibilities stay and accountability still stay within the organization. And appointments, contracts are made in between these parties, so between the appointing party and the lead appointed party and the appointed parties. So of course it's not something that you would want to hand over and then you can step out from being an owner, being an appointing party. And also this entire process is there to improve the information exchange and in the end improve the quality of the project. So of course it's the benefit of the appointing party. So again, you don't really want to step out from it. You might want to be on the sideline. You might want to control it from a distance. But again, as this is going to be your project as an appointing party, it is about your benefits as well. So you definitely want to be involved.
Yeah. So if we look at it, so my point of view is always that even the appointing party should have BIM execution plan for their internal team to understand that this is where we have to, drive this entire thing, from OIR and PIR. So combining both of them, what I feel is to tell the consultant or to give the consultant a yardstick, because otherwise it becomes too chaotic. I will go this way and you will go that way. So I feel that a broad, probably a vague, some execution plan is needed from the appointing party also, depending on the local market. I'm not saying it is needed everywhere. I'm saying it is needed in our market where majority of the people talk about software is BIM and BIM is a software. So in this kind of scenario, I feel that even the appointing party should have at least a rough draft execution plan, that this is how you have to execute this entire process. Something like that,
We definitely see where if there is capability within the owner that says, I've done this before, I know how I can benefit using BIM on my project, and I can guide you, because that's going to get a better, more a leaner output for me, the right output, then 100%. Yeah. So if you're an owner that has already strong views that are going to help the project delivery team, then yeah, that should be included. And that's the part where I'm sort of saying the BIM execution plan is just a collection of agreements about how many teams come together to deliver a project. And you can only really do that with an online system to be able to capture those requirements and continue to develop them. And I think that one of the things about that workflow is, as we saw in here, I might be really important, really instrumental in defining project information about this, but I might not be so instrumental in some of these other parts. And that's okay, because somebody else can come in and jump in and say, oh, I'm the one that understands what BCF issue management is, or I'm the one that understands how we set up project coordinates for the environment. That could be somebody in the owner's team as well. And so that's why it's important that this is a continually evolving, continually collaborative, and also continually contractual, because that's how our industry works. So it might be that you have input from the owner about what file format they need as a delivery. Maybe the delivery team would be, we're going to share, these are the software versions that we're going to use in order to be able to deliver that as an output. So there's lots of these different pieces of the puzzle that get worked through into an output. And the importance, I think, is that at certain points in time, we want to only communicate with what's authorized for use. And so if we were exporting and creating that as an output, then we would say, I want to export this as my agreement, and I only want to export the published and authorized content. So I could then say, I would filter this and then create this document and say, only create a contract with the published and authorized content. And then if I was to create one of those, I don't know whether I've got any in here. Yep. I could then also say, I want this to be automatically updated on every week on a Monday morning and sent to everybody on the project. And that principle of keeping the right parties involved, but developing the right information requirements and the right delivery and the right agreements, but also being able to slice it and send those agreements continually so that they are archived and contractual and in people's email and also in people's contracts is really important. Yeah. And whether that's the owner or whether that's the delivery team, if that information manager is appointed by the owner or somebody else, it's just important that the right information gets collected and collaborated on and agreed on, and finds its way to the contract.
Yeah. So yeah, I always feel that even the appointing party should have this yardsticks that you have to walk between these two extremes. Don't go too far off left or right. Just these are your tracks. Somewhere in between you have to keep balancing, because it is an ongoing document. So it is not something that, okay, today my BIM execution plan is ready and it is going to be there for 50 years. No, it's not possible. It is constantly updating. So I feel that all the parties, an appointing party cannot say that I am done with this. It's constantly evolving. Yeah, so that was another point that I feel that it is needed in local market. I mean, in Indian context, it is much needed that it should start from appointing party, actually. That this is the way. Otherwise, all the consultants, all the appointees will have to come to the guy who is managing the information, and they will have to constantly ask him. And if in the local context, Indian context, that's a third party or a consultant, there'll be a lot of back and forth, because again, all the consultants or appointees working on a project will report to this information manager, and that information manager will take approval from the owner. So there'll be a lot of back and forth. So even owner's BIM manager or project manager should be part of this BIM execution plan. Is my local experience.
Yep. So let me share three things that I would recommend. One is for teams that are interested in implementing and getting certified in ISO 19650. One is have somebody, not everybody, read the set of documents, the standards, and boil it down if you want to create your own process diagram, but make it simple. We have one, an ISO 19650 workflow, a diagram that's really simple that you can use to explain it to others. And then the second one is go through our basics, advanced, and expert level. The expert level training is all about how to create each one of those resources. So how do you create an EIR? How do you create an AIR? How do you follow the level of information need principles? How do you define COBie requirements? How do you, all of these different steps that you might need, that's in the expert training. And then the third one is if you want to get ready and certified, go through our 60-day program, which will start with a gap analysis and end in support through your non-conformances to get you certified. So they're the three things that I would recommend. Understand the standard, boil it down into a process, simple diagram, and some checklists. We've got that as a starting point if you want it. Number two is go through to the expert level training, so you're ready as a set of individuals. And then number three is go through the 60-day program, which will get you as a team, as a company, certified, and even check off those non-conformances as well.
Thank you for this clarity and giving us a clear picture that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You do these things and you can get certified. So this is needed, and I feel that within a year this thing will start happening in India. I mean, I see the market going in that direction. I see the awareness. I mean, what it was last year and what it is today, there is a huge difference. So I mean, as a country, we have moved from 0 to 10, I think, and now it's time to go from 10 to 100.
Yeah, we're seeing it. We're seeing it, and the benefit is lower costs because everyone's following the same workflow, but also we're seeing teams win so much more business. So this is a business boost. It's something that because you can show that you're following ISO 19650, you can be selected for projects that maybe you wouldn't be selected for. And we're starting to see requirements all around the world that are saying, I would like my teams to follow the ISO 19650 workflows so that they're more efficient and collaborating on the right outputs, the right outcomes, purpose-driven and collaborative approach.
So let's sum it up. Thank you, Akash and Clive, for joining today for this overview and importance of ISO 19650 certification. I think there'll be many interested people from the audience for this particular topic, and we'll have a lot of questions on this.
We love questions.
Sounds great. That's what I wanted to say as well.
Questions, yeah, Akash, go on.
No, I just wanted to say the same. So it's great to have those questions, and many of the answers. I hope that you find many of the answers on the Plannerly website in forms of training material and some tutorials and so on. You get access to the templates that we were talking about and to the workflow with your free account, and then we will be there to help you and guide you through this entire process. So yeah, give it a try.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.